Serious Redditors and arranged marriages. What is it really like? So my story goes like this. I was in love with a girl pretty much my whole life. We were really close and eventually decided to get married after almost 3 years of dating. It all felt perfect until circumstances got as such that we mutually decided on breaking up. It was the worst heartbreak for both of us. Well, a year from then, my parents told me about this girl they knew and thought if I'd be open to considering her for marriage. I decided to give it a try and my family approached her family. They seemed really nice people and both the parents decided that they wanted to go ahead with the process. So the girl and I started talking and texting and getting to know each other. She seemed amazing as she wasn't being all fake with me and gave me honest answers. We both really liked each other and decided to take the leap of faith and got married a couple of months ago. The love I have discovered with her is something unexplainable. The love I thought I knew with that girl before doesn't even stand in comparison with what I have now. It's still early on, but I'm hoping for good things. Pretty much everyone in my family had an arranged marriage, so I have a lot of stories, ranging from really happy to very terrifying. I guess I can talk about my parents to start with, and will answer other questions if people have any. This is India, for context, and I'm not going to be any more specific, and some details are fuzzed. They were married in the 70s. My grandfather spent a fair amount of time looking for women slightly younger than my dad. My dad was in his late 20s and had been working for over 10 years at this point, including dropping out of college, since it was a big family he had to support. My mom had grown up in a small village and was about 5 years younger. Since my dad had no hang-ups about whom to marry, he is still a very unfussy person. He said yes to the first person both his parents agreed to. They moved to a larger city after getting married where he was working in the public sector. The details after that are slightly fuzzy and stuff I've gathered from relatives and overheard people talking and whatever versions my parents told me. My mom had a very utopian idea of what married life would be like, and apparently that didn't work out so well, and she'd be morose a lot and spend a couple months at her mother's house every year until I was born. My dad had to figure out how to actually be a good husband. He did not really have any idea if any of this worked. Over the years my dad developed heart problems. My mom went into depression, and there was a lot more yelling. It would always end up being resolved, since ending a marriage is never an option for families like this. There would be days when they plain just would not speak to each other. Sometimes it ended with mom yelling a lot. Sometimes not. They never really learned how to resolve issues like adults. Now, it's been decades, and I find they are more like coworkers than anything else. They did an amazing job of raising me and my brother. They have each helped out the other's family at times. My dad paid for college for a few of my cousins. In fact, they always work as a team, albeit slightly dysfunctional when it comes to things like dealing with problems in the extended family. But that's all that they are. I don't think there's any affection between them at all. They don't go out or do the same things together. They have 2 TVs, talk about anything other than serious stuff, or go on vacation. I love them to death, but they aren't the kind of relationship I aspire to. I'm American born, but balance that line between Indian and American. For American boys, I was too Indian. For Indian boys, I was too American. Never officially dated and studied a lot. Went through countless meetings with boys from Indian matrimonial sites and never clicked with anyone. As I reached my 30s, the pressure started to mount. I had pretty much given up on finding someone and had grown content with my work and small group of friends. My father sent me a random profile and said he wanted me to look at it. I was not at all interested. So, I pretended to be my dad and sent an email to his dad. His dad, who ended up being him, responded to my dad, me, that we should talk. So, I send an email to the guy and wait to hear back. A month goes by, and I'm like, okay, fuck you then. Then, I get an email on the 1st of the new year in 2010. It's him. He wanted to start the year off with me. We talk on email for a bit. Then, the phone. Visit in February. Married in March. We have a 6-year-old son and he and my husband are my world. So, quasi arranged. And I'm so grateful to my father for finding this man for me. Finally, something to which I can contribute. I'm 27, my wife is 26, we are both doctors, and we had an arranged marriage. I may be biased, but I think at least for me this has worked out better. I had many social issues and a really low self-worth. I got matched to a really lively girl. I panicked when it started, and I nearly ended the engagement, because I thought we were so different. How could this ever work? What I was not expecting was how much I would fall in love with her. She awakened my sleeping lively side. She brings joy and fun to my life to the extent that I get depressed if I don't see her face in the morning. I love her totally. If I had been left to my own devices, I would never have thought myself good enough for her. Now our life is looking up as I just got a residency, and I tend to think that is due to the luck brought to me by her. TL. Doctor had an arranged marriage, freaked out a bit in the beginning, now she is my life. I'm 26 and coming up on 3 years marriage very soon. Not really sure if I had an arranged marriage per se. I think a more appropriate term would be matchmaking. My family and my husband's family had been friends for almost 10 years, but because both of our families are of the conservative Muslim type, we never met or spoke to each other. When his dad and my dad thought we might make a good couple, we spoke to each other over Skype with parental supervision. Twice because my husband was attending an out-of-state university. Before I knew it, our parents picked a date for an official engagement, and we got married 6 months later. Like all marriages, we have our ups and downs, and are generally happy and in love. In the beginning it was weird, because I wasn't in love with him. I liked him well enough, and I knew that I would fall in love with him give time. It was disconcerting to be vulnerable and have sex with someone I hardly knew. It's hard to explain, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that emotionally I wasn't ready to be intimate with my husband, but obviously hormones. I wouldn't change a thing about how I got married, because whatever happened, it's led to the beautiful, supportive, and loving relationship we have today. Met my husband on the 9th, agreed to marry him on the 15th, and were wed on the 20th. Literally said about 2 words to each other, and that was with 5 members of his family present. Been together 13 plus years. It had its ups and downs, like I imagine any marriage would, arranged or not. We are very good together. He tries to make me happy in any way he can. My parents arranged an engagement with one of their friend's daughters. It was an international arrangement, so it was a pretty complicated state of affairs with a lot of paperwork. So we got to know each other over a year while the paperwork was getting done. All in all, it's been pretty great. Definitely not without the typical relationship issues. What's really nice about it though is that our whole family is approving of the relationship, so there's a lot of support all around. So my marriage was arranged. I'll give a brief rundown of my courtship. First met my wife to be in Chandigarh, India. My grandfather and her father were both in the army and had been posted there, so our respective families had a get together. This was right after I had graduated college. She was still in high school. I don't remember much. We both said hi to each other, but that's about it. Around this time our families started the process, for lack of a better term. Soon after I moved to the United States to get my master's degree in computer science. I studied in the States for 2 years, and upon graduation I accepted a job offer at Intel. I worked there for a few years, and would visit India often. By now my wife to-be was studying at Indraprastha College, Delhi University. After working at Intel for a while, I moved to a better paying position at IBM. At this time, my family and her family broached the idea of us getting married. By this point I barely remember my wife to-be, having only met her that one time several years ago. We meet in India, and at that point we started dating. She had graduated from Delhi University and was planning to apply to a PhD program. After a year of dating, that's essentially what it was. We got married in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. Both of us were Andhras. We knew each other relatively well at this point. Soon afterwards, she joined me in the States, having been accepted into a PhD program. I would continue to work for the next few years until we had our first child. We've been married for close to 20 years. Both of us are very happy in our marriage. Obviously nothing is 100% perfect. We argue from time to time like any other couple. But she's been a supportive, wonderful companion for all of those years, and I like to think I've been the same. Throwaway. I was born over here to a Christian family from a small sect. My marriage was arranged and I, stupidly, consented. I hated her at first. My parents chose her on looks, which admittedly she is very beautiful. But, they didn't pick on any other criteria. My wife, whom I've come to love dearly, had never left her home region, spoke only her native tongue, which I speak like an 8-year-old, and had been groomed for marriage since she was young. She couldn't carry on a conversation. She hadn't read a book in 10 years. She had no interests. She was just always present. I fucking hated her. She knew it too. Then she got sick. Suddenly, I had to look after her. It was terrible. She was in/out of hospital for months. At one point, she was in the ICU. Once out and home, she had to recuperate for months. Her parents weren't going to come, so I was left to do everything. I was 27 years old, wiping my wife's bottom, shaving her armpits, and washing her hair. I was so angry that I was in the situation, but realized that she was getting the worst of it. As she got better, she would do things for herself and would do little things to thank me. She would buy me little things. She would do nice things for me. It made me feel terrible that I hated this poor woman and she was there doing nice things for me. So, we started dating, and I taught her about life over here. That's what saved us. We grew to respect one another. Then because of the dating, we slowly fell in love. But it was a long process, and had it not been for her illness, I'm not sure what would have happened. Funny story. My dad had arranged marriage, but everyone thought he got married to someone he never meet. But he have meet my mom before, and as far as I can tell they were kinda dating. Same shit happened to me. My parents thought they were getting me an arranged marriage. Little did they know it was my secret GF that I never told them about.